This conference will now be recorded.
I mean, generally says this is the word that Chester first says so far, I think. Nice. Probably not in his cards, right?
Coach goes, put your gear on.
Yeah.
Put your gear.
Sure. Okay. All right, it's 2:00. So we'll start the meeting of the Roswell Infrastructure Committee agenda. And today is April the 15th. Can we have roll call? See if we have Mrs. Moore on the line.
Councilor Odepesa,
Here.
Councilor Johnson,
Here.
Councilor Honor. Here. Councilor Kevin,
Here.
Councilor Moore.
Councilor Moore, are you online? I guess not. But we do have a quorum anyway. So with that, we'll start. And first of all, welcome to everybody that is here and online. And for our records, if you're here, please make sure that you sign in. And when you get up to talk, if you will give your name and your address, please. And with that, we'll start with a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
We have a motion to approve the agenda in a second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carried. Next item is the approval of the minutes. Did everybody have a chance to read the minutes? And if so, can I have a motion to approve the minutes as read or any corrections that need to be done?
So moved.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the minutes? And of course, we're talking about the minutes of March the 25th. All those in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? The minutes are approved as presented. And so we'll go to the regular items. Item number 2, consider resolution 24XX for support of projects in response to the FHWA Safe Streets for All implementation grant notice of funding opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman, committee members. As was mentioned at City Council last week, the FHWA has issued a notice of funding opportunity for this cycle of Safe Streets for All implementation funding. So in your packet, I put together a draft resolution. There's a list of projects with rough budget numbers that Priest Nichols has prepared. So we're looking for guidance on, do we respond to this notice of funding opportunity? And if so, projects, dollar amount, looking for some guidance as far as responding to that. Kevin St. Jakes is also here again from Priest Nichols. So he's got a presentation that he'll go through some more detail on these projects. And then, like I said, we'd love to get some guidance and feedback on what direction to go.
Councilor. Thank you, Chair. I noticed on your first item, standardize all way stops. What is standardized? Maybe you have the answer to that?
Yeah, well, we have.
It'll be part of your presentation?
Yes.
Okay, I don't want to steal that thunder then. Go ahead.
And just for I guess for my own information, I know that we'll be discussing certain projects, designs, and constructions. But I guess I need to find out whether this committee is going to suggest 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever number, because this one obviously has to go to finance. And so
I'm not sure to what extent, how many projects are we going to be looking at and those kind of things. And I guess I'll just wait, turn it over to you and I'll wait and see what kind of information you come up with.
Right. Hopefully we'll answer a lot of your questions in the presentation. All right, so implementation grant is the focus of our discussion. Last time we talked about the plan and what's kind of in the plan. We previewed some of the projects. We brought the plan itself to City Council. The council approved it Thursday. And so we have, we're going to be sending that draft ahead of our implementation grant to say, here's our plan. Do you like the plan? Do you approve us to go ahead and get implementation money? So that kind of gives a green light, hopefully thumbs up, we got a good plan. So we follow this whole safety action process. And the next slide kind of shows a little bit about our schedule coming up. May 16th is a deadline for submitting implementation grant applications. To do that, you have to have all your ducks in a row. Everything has to be in that, and you have to figure out what you're going to do. You have to have local resolution to fund that 20%. Doesn't have to be with local money, it could be state money, it could be other, you just can't be federal money. It has to be 80% federal and 20% non-federal. And so we'll be asking council on May 9th to have the resolution that if they get a grant, then they will make sure that the 20% is secured to match the federal 80%. And so we back that up then into a series of meetings that we have to have, and we're here 15th to get concurrence with you on what those projects ought to be and what those range. To give an idea, the low end is $2.5 million. So when you put together an implementation grant, they want your packages to be $2.5 million or larger. They've already said in the funding opportunity advertisement that they would give preference to grants that were asking for less than $10 million in federal money. So 80% of you got your 10 million, 8% equation would be $2.5 million of local. And so we could ask for total projects about $12.5 million. So that's the kind of a range, $2.5 million to $12.5 million. So we have a host of things that we can talk about that would fit into that range of projects that could be funded. The project proposals come in two kinds. One is what we call systematic, and that's the next slide. And the other is more focused spot improvements. So systematic is things like, standardizing the all-way stops. Right now we have a lot of things that are just not standard and people kind of come up to them, don't know exactly what to do. So we're going to standardize. So in the systemic, they've got signage, paved markings, signal head, signal timing, speed limits. Those are all kind of low fruit that federal government expects you to do those as part of your basic program before you start asking for big money to fix other things. So get your stuff standardized, get your low end cost treatments done. So we have a systemic safety treatments as well as the final. So next slide down, our safety countermeasures. Again, the Federal Highway Administration put together this program of effective safety countermeasures to address some issues, setting appropriate speed limits for all roads, some safety speed cameras if we want to go that way, setting some variable speed limits based on what's going on the road. So setting speed limits would be a good thing for us to do. The next slide down, we've got an area that goes in our center area. We've got 25-mile speed limit, which is good. It's good on Main Street. 25 is very good appropriate for that area. But then we bring people down from 35-mile-an-hour into the 25-mile-an-hour, which is kind of a big step for a lot of drivers. So hey, let's bring them down to 30. Let's bring them to 20. And so again, working with driver tendencies to help influence their behaviors, and then at the same time changing the character of what's alongside the road. We've got basically a 4-lane divided freeway coming into town that has 8-foot shoulders. In areas near intersections, we widen up that right-hand lane to give them a right turn lane, but then we go right back down to 8-foot shoulders. So we've got a lot of driveways in certain areas. Everything south of College essentially is very intense with driveways. And so it might be better to have 11-foot lanes instead of 12-foot lanes and a 10-foot wide outside lane that is basically a continuous right turn lane. So people know that they can get out of the throughway into the slow down lane to execute their turns. And so a lot of small things, these are very small, inexpensive things to do. Take a little coordination with the DOT to make it happen, but very easy to do. Next slide down, safety countermeasures, things that accommodate peds and bikes. Some of the treatments we're going to do actually will help to implement the bike plan. Putting edge lines along the road help to channelize the traffic into a basic 11-foot lane, basically 10, maybe 11-foot travel lane, which leaves area on the side for bike lanes and parking and other things that need to happen to address the local needs. So setting bike lanes actually is a safety countermeasure to assign space on the road for bikes and traffic and create some order. And there's a lot of other smaller things that we can do, walkways, we're missing sidewalks, let's get some sidewalks fixed to the streets for walking to school and other things. The flashing beacons, all sorts of small treatments that enhance the pedestrian safety. Next slide, the edge lines that we talked about briefly, but we've got a lot of wide 2-lane streets in town. If we bring that edge line into the picture, all of a sudden we create a structure for drivers to be in. And it creates a more constrained space that tends to slow them down a little bit than if we just have a wide open 2-lane street. So by simple addition of an edge line stripe, we create that channel, we create the bike lane, create the parking lane, and it's just a stripe of paint. But it does so much to channelize folks and give them structure. Where we need to introduce a left turn lane at one of our all-way stops, we can channelize folks into the position they need to be at the intersection. Next slide down, safety countermeasures. The edge lines for roadway departure is sometimes we got a curvature road and people don't see the curvature, or we got very narrow 2-lane roadway. And so putting the edge line out there really helped to channelize folks and make them see it, especially at nighttime. So next slide down is just an example of you've got some existing fairly narrow 2-lane roadways that have no visible edge to it, just kind of like off the road. If you see the gravel over there, then you're lucky. So putting an edge line out there, putting a center line. And so if you have a 20-foot wide roadway, you know that I really only have my 10 feet of this road to work with, and I got to make sure that other people can get going the other way. No safety countermeasure next down is looking at, all sorts of things at the intersections can make those intersections safer, and that's where we have most of our crashes, at intersections. Always stops, even signalized. We have a lot of crashes at signalized, making sure that signalized are predictable. Everything has to be standardized to what they're going to see out there. And then you can actually enhance those. We were talking last time about the yellow change intervals. The signals come standard with like a 3.5 second of yellow and a second of red. If you just throw the signal in at the intersection without thinking about what actually is needed on the signal timing, you might have a lot of red light running because the yellow is too short. So we've experienced a lot of red light running in the city. Yellow intervals may only be a part of it, but it can help if you give that yellow interval its due. If you got a 35 or 40 or 45 mile an hour speed limit, you need a longer yellow to be able to have people recognize the yellow, get through the intersection and safely. So you give them the yellow time, give that traffic maybe an extra second of all red, just to temporarily separate people going through those intersections and really help to save. And it's a very low cost thing to do. Go into the signal shop and change some timings, and then you can implement that like right away. Reflective backplates. Looking at the signals, when you come up on a signal, just a little reflectorized edge around the backplate, around the back of the signal head, can really raise awareness of the signals there. Even during the day, when it's really bright out, those reflective edges really show up. And then at nighttime, it really helps the driver see those signals way far away. You would think that little tiny little red light in the signal head would be easy enough to see, but the reflective sheeting around the outside of it, it really, really bolsters the visibility of those signals. So again, a very low cost thing to do, but getting those out. And then another standardized treatment of the intersection. The next couple signals that slides down is, so here's an image. And we have a lot of signals that only have one signal head way out on the mast arm. And so like a 5-section head that serves the left turn. So there are things about signal design that can really accentuate the safety of an intersection. Getting the 2 heads on the mast arm really strengthen that message about what the track control is all about. And then putting reflector edges along the outside of it would be if you skip down to the next slide, hopefully you can see the pop out of the yellow around those edges. There's other things you can do at the sign there. Right now, your left turn 5 signal head, when you do your left turn ahead, you've got the little green arrow, and it goes transitions to the green ball. But there's nothing really to tell the driver what to do. If you're in the left turn lane and your green ball's up, if you've been there, you've seen the green's gone. But if you're coming up on a signal and you're gonna get in that left turn lane, you're gonna green ball, you might think you've got a green to go. A lot of cities put in a little sign next to that said left turn yield on the green ball. Very effective treatment. It's not required, but it's a very effective safety treatment. Sign costs you $100. Put it up there when you're changing out the back plates, and you have a more safe condition to go with. Yellow and red intervals we talked about briefly. You don't want to make them too long, then people just start expecting they've got all the yellow in the world and they start running everything. So just to signal appropriate timing. It's all in the manual of uniform traffic control devices of what kind of yellow time you should have based on the speed and the distance across the intersection to set those properly. And then all red, you don't want them to be too long either. 3 seconds or so of all red is about as far as you want to go before you've got antsy and they start jumping the red lights. Next slide down. And getting the channelization for those left turns is important, and it's going to be a balancing act of where I need a right side bike lane versus where I need to take that space and channelize for left turns. So there'll be a fair amount of opportunities for putting in left turn bays on some of our wider 2-lane streets. Next slide down is the standardization of the hallway stops. Right now, we've read a lot of these crash reports, and one of them was interesting. It was a side street stop, but the statement from the driver says, "I thought this was an all-way stop," because there's not a strong differentiation when you come to the stop that the other people don't stop unless you look really carefully at what the backs of signs look like and such. So standardizing the treatment, putting a stop bar. Most folks, they need to be able to judge what the other driver is doing and whether the other driver has come to his stop sign, stop bar or not, whether they're approaching. And when you're stopping at your stop bar, position yourself so that you have room left over for the other person to turn next to you going the other way. So in that approach stop bar, the approach center line, the stop bar, are going to be 2 really basic things that all hallway stops should have. The treatment of the stop sign, red reflective tape on the stop sign itself, even going to LED lights around the stop sign is kind of a treatment we can do where we have bigger 48-inch stop signs. That we should have something a little more definitive and effective at those locations. Putting in rumble strips on the approaches. Also, just get them all doing the same things. Driver comes up, they know that they've come across the stop sign, hallway stop, and then the advanced sign ahead. So a lot of folks, a lot of intersections have those advanced signs, but they do a lot of different things. We need to make them all pretty. That's what standardizing hallway street stops. All right, so that's kind of the range of systemic kind of treatments that we're looking at. Other systemic treatments were, lighting, look for lighting all over the place in town, make sure you don't have any dark intersections, a host of other things. I think there's 26 various low-cost safety improvement things that Federal Highway recommends that we looked at. And so we just chose the ones that seemed to be most needed on systemic-wide area. The next are the specific projects, and I think we talked about these briefly at our last meeting. Some of the always stops are really too big. The intersection is too big to be managed effectively by always stop. And so maybe a traffic signal, maybe a roundabout, something more effective needs to be done at some of these larger always stops. College and Union comes to mind. All the way down at Union Hobbs is a very, very large intersection controlled by an always stop. And so it's very, very hard for a driver to judge whether it's their turn to go through, whether they have enough clearance to get through the intersection. So looking at these specific always stop conversions to a signal roundabout is kind of one of our elements. I'll go over to Maine from Maine to Montana. South Main at the Gaffney is kind of a big one. That's going to be a very important one. Third at Main Street is another project. So we've got a series of slides to go through those just real quickly, and then we can kind of backtrack on some of these and ask questions about. We've identified a dozen or so intersections that really could use to be looked at. Our top 5 are Washington at Hobbs, and number 2 would be Union at Hobbs. 3, I think, was Union at College. 4th is Garden at 19th, and our 5th one was consideration for the relief route at 380. And that's kind of a longer range picture, but these are all kind of important just because of their crash potential at these locations. Could go badly if folks don't always stops. So again, a host of these, and we'll talk about those a little more in depth about putting those in, but they range. Those are about $400,000 a piece to address a conversion from always stop to a roundabout, or if you want to signal, that's like 500,000. So something strong to consider on these. Next slide down, just an example of elements. Let's go to the College Boulevard, the next one down. This just have a shape. What they know about the roundabouts, if you're going to consider roundabout, is that they have a more of a circular shape than our intersections have more of a square edges to them now. And so sometimes they take a little bit of room to fit them in at the existing always stops. But some that are larger can accommodate them pretty well. We like to work with single lane roundabouts. They're a lot more easy to manage and drive and understand when you come into those. College Boulevard, the next slide down, has probably the most intense corridor of crashes that we've got in our high injury network for the city. Just in the area from Vermont, I had the 94 injuries in the 5 years. So much more than would be expected on this kind of a roadway. Look at what's going on. It goes from a 3-lane down to a 2-lane, narrow to a wider 2-lane, and it's got roundabouts on it. So a lot of things that probably could collectively be improved to enhance the safety of that corridor. And so we slide down through the series of images. A lot of crashes there's people misjudging the gap that they have from the oncoming traffic. People being rear-ended because they thought the person was going to jump that gap and didn't jump the gap, and they hit them from behind, things like that. So a lot of things to address. Going down a couple more slides, we get to the typical section that we proposed. The 3-lane, just continuing the 3-lane that comes out from Main Street and then bring it all the way on down to Montana. Part of, most of it's already wide enough to accommodate 3 lanes, just a matter of striping it. There's a 2-block narrow section that we have to widen up a bit of the pavement to make that 3-lane fit in there. And at the same time, we want to bring a 10-foot wide shared use path along one side to continue the bicycle accommodations, bike and ped accommodations all the way down through the corridor. Next slide. On the College Boulevard corridor, we have the potential for a roundabout there at Union. This is how a roundabout would fit within that existing section at that location. A lot of it would be bringing folks into 1 lane on the approach and let them kind of take their turn going through. And the nice thing about a roundabout is that you don't have a lot of traffic going towards the intersection. You're not really stopping if you're proceeding along the road. You're slowing down and going through the intersection. So that tends to decrease the layout. It's very good for the fuel efficiency and air pollution. And so these roundabouts, when you put them in as a recommended treatment, they tend to score very well on their efficiency and effectiveness for environmental considerations. So that would be one thing we put in. Then we'd have to consider whether a similar treatment would fit at the Washington at College intersection and down at the other end of Montana, where that transition into the 4-lane that's out there west of Montana, and how to transition all that. But something to address all those conflict points along that way. Montana has its own transitional conflicts that go on at that location. We try to address them as part of this treatment on the College Boulevard project. The Main McGaffey is the next project down. And if you may be familiar with this, but it's got 2 very closely spaced signals to try to manage those 5 legs of traffic coming into this location. It's got a very short distance between those 2. So one of the challenges is if you're coming up 285 and you want to position yourself properly at that McGaffey intersection, you're coming at it from askew, and if you got a left turn that's trying to happen, they have to quickly get in the left turn lane, but they might be hanging out. And if you're trying to go straight through, you gotta position yourself properly too, or you're gonna be encroaching on your neighbor to the left or to the right of you. So a lot of challenges because these are 2 very closely spaced, and the cycle length to manage all that traffic is like 3 minutes long. You sit through this long signal cycle and the queues just keep building up and building up. And so it blocks the access entry to the Albertsons and just kind of builds up tremendously. So to offset that, one of the treatments we are proposing is to move that signal from this location to over at Wildby. And you can see the array of traffic crashes that just happen. A lot of them because of the misalignment of lanes coming into the intersection. So our treatment we're looking at is separate that traffic out. We got too much coming into one place at one time. It's not well accommodated. So the next one down shows a bit of that concept. We would eliminate the 2 very close signals. That would allow us to improve that northbound left turn there at McGaffey as it comes in, actually flatten that out a little bit and give longer storage space, give better length to transition and get square onto the intersection. We would divert just the northbound South Main Street. One of our earlier concepts brought it up to Wildby and put a signal there, and that would accommodate what we want to do. It separates the traffic, but we would take over Wildby and bring a lot of traffic in from the bank and things like that. So we looked, okay, now we know that works. And so we looked at the concept of bringing that all the way down in front of the county facility on St. Mary's Place. taken that northbound diversion of St. Clair's Place up to the intersection on 285. And that gives plenty of storage space, plenty of queuing to accommodate that. And then what you have left over, you could still carry one lane of traffic northbound. You could serve all the areas with a less intense amount of northbound traffic. You could open up some median openings now southbound at the bank. You could open up a median opening. All sorts of things you can do because you would have less intense traffic going through that section. We'd still keep a signal at Wildey coming across to allow better cross circulation for the neighbors coming into the retail. So you have cross circulation, Wildey, you have cross circulation down in front of the courthouse. You got a new gas station coming in at that corner across from the courthouse. They're going to be looking at have a lot of access to their site off of 285. And so this signal that would go in at 285 and St. Mary's Place would actually give them a left turn in and a right turn into their driveway. So it does a lot of things besides just getting the traffic uncongested from Agape. It solves a lot of other things that are going on. So we think it's going to be a very good project for everybody to do this larger treatment. But I meeting with county folks this morning, they were a little concerned about this traffic coming out front. We have a little video of when you replace all the traffic and put it in this redistributed area, that it really doesn't have long queues because we don't have a 3-minute long traffic cycle anymore. It's more like a minute and a half up here at McGaffey. And so you've got very more distributed traffic, a lot shorter queue lengths, and traffic gets around through here much better. So we think it would be an excellent project to pursue. Next one down is 3rd Street at Main. For a while, the DOTs have been saying, can we give her some of the signals downtown? We can have better progression. And so we looked at, well, what about this 3rd Street location? It seems to have a very small amount of demand to get across 3rd Street. And then if you take the demand off the side and allow the progression to happen 2nd to 4th, and 4th down to 2nd, it would allow better progression of signal cycle and allow some of the queues to be better managed up and down Main Street. A lot of crashes in that zone, not necessarily at 3rd, but a lot of them happen because of everything, all the congestion that's between 2nd and 4th. And so once you kind of rethink that whole corridor, then it can operate a little better. Now, what we want to do, though, is we want to keep the ability for pedestrians to cross at 3rd Street, because there are a lot of pedestrians circulating right around that couple of blocks downtown. So next slide down is kind of the concept that we would put a median across 3rd Street. And that would allow a few things. I mean, you could just put the median on 3rd Street and make the 3rd Street traffic right in, right out, and if they're okay, you could still get your good progression. But what if we took it a step further and actually create this little truncation of 3rd Street on both sides? And so this becomes a little more of pedestrian zone end of 3rd Street. Retain some of the parking. There's about 10 or 12 parking spaces. We make them more now just right angle in at the businesses on our side. And so it sets up that kind of pedestrian friendly zone in the center of the core downtown. So we think, again, it would be a very good treatment to consider, would then allow better operations up and down Main Street between 2nd and 4th. And the next slide shows a little bit about kind of an image of what that might look like with pedestrians still from across here. We would basically, you wouldn't need the signals facing 3rd from either side, but you'd leave the signals facing Main. If a pedestrian came up and wanted to push the button, there'd be a certain window in that progression of 2nd to 4th where it would allow the pedestrians a reflected phase to get on through there. All right, so those are kind of the three big projects as well as the systemic projects that we would put into the vision. So we did a little bit of cost estimating. That's the next slide down. Put the systemic and the recommended projects into a kind of a spreadsheet of the costs of what they might take. So if you go to the next slide down. Look, the systemic, which are up front, the standardizing all the way stops, the striping, the signage, just standardizing what they look like. Then adding headlines in on a lot of our roadways, and then enhancing the signal heads for visibility. If you took a look at all that, that's almost $2 million just by themselves, the systemic stuff that needs to go around the town. Striping is very expensive when you add up the miles and miles of streets that we want to put stripe on. So they came up to a fairly significant. The other cost we have besides just the construction is the survey, design, administration overall, and I believe that's just a 5%, which overall miscellaneous for other things that might not be anticipated. Within the construction costs themselves, there's about a 20% contingency for unanticipated elements of the cost. So there's a lot of contingency at this planning level of cost estimating. And then we looked at the specific projects. The South Main of McGaffey is about 2.6 million construction. When you add it all up, it gets to be about a $3 million overall cost of the project. And then there are quite a number of always stop to roundabout or always stop to signals that can be done. We just took the highest ranking ones up for our list and started putting them into a spreadsheet. And if we put them all in, the North Main and the College Boulevard is about another $2.5 million improvement. We're at a total of about 12 million construction. And then the total over here, about a $15 million total. So the federal ask would be 13, which is a little higher than we want to be. So we would need to decide not to do some of these things up here to bring that down to a $10 million or less number, to be matched by about $2.5 million of non-federal funds. So with that, we can talk about these projects and what they are. I've got a spreadsheet on here so we can interactively correct the total and bring it down to the number that seems reasonable for us. But that's the overall program of things as it stands now. We need to get that $13 million, 80% federal number down to just under 10.
Any questions from committee members?
Mr. Chairman, I have one question. So we send this to City Council. Obviously, we're going to send this to Finance Committee first. But we send this off to maybe get approved. Are we going to be, if it gets approved, are we going to be committed to that 20%? That's something that it gets approved that we're going to have to do?
Yes, what you want to do is there needs to be a council resolution that the council will commit to finding that 20%.
Right.
And we've already heard that there are some state monies that are set up to be the 20% for any community that wants to go after the state streets for all money. So that is something that needs to be investigated. The state DOT have already indicated that they'd be interested in helping to fund that McGaffey improvement because it's mostly on their projects. So there's a lot of money out there. I think that just needs to be amassed and assembled that might not require any city money technically at all. And it could all be with state monies, but the city has to put its neck out there and say, we're going to commit to funding this 20%.
When you visited with the county this morning, did you get any indication that the county would be partaking in financing this? Or was that even a topic?
Open that discussion. We're mostly interested to make sure they're on board. The treatment.
Was the sheriff in that meeting?
County manager and Alex Palomino, so the two that met with us. And a couple other data points. The Safe Streets for All is a 5-year program, and we're in year 3. So counting this cycle, we have potential of 3 cycles to apply for this funding.
And then what is the window if we send this up there and they approve it? What is the time frame that we have to complete the projects are in this? Did I hear by 2035?
Well, once you get funded, you have a 5-year window to do that project. The 2035 window is the city council has, in its resolution, said it's gonna target trying to reduce crashes or infantry crashes by 50% by 2035. So these projects move the needle towards getting that.
Okay, and so the window on this, we get it, then we decide whether or not we want to do roundabouts or.
Yeah, you have the flexibility from that point to refining the design concept. So if we decide to do a signal instead of a roundabout, that's all flexible as far as once we have the budget and.
Well, and I know we talked, I think Lewis was at the meeting, but you know, the College Boulevard deal and the accidents and everything, I would go out of bounds to assess that a majority of those accidents that occur on College are not necessarily at the intersections, but are coming off of Richardson and coming off of Pennsylvania and coming off of Kentucky and coming off of Lee, or people trying to turn onto those streets off that main street. Not a four-way except for the Kentucky intersection. But I know and have seen a lot of accidents at those 3 and not necessarily at your 4-way intersection. So how do we address those within this Safe Streets plan?
The specific intersections, right now, because it's a 2-lane road, with the exception of Richardson, you don't have a left turn area to get out of that flow of traffic to make your turning maneuver. So that helps also as the driveways that are mid-block, helps at the intersections where you want to get out of through traffic to make your left turn and wait for the gap. So that's the enhancement that the 3-lane improvement makes over what happens at the 2-lane right now, is that it provides that space for people to get out of the flow, to slow down.
And the traffic coming onto College from those streets I just mentioned?
Now, for the folks coming out, it creates that sense of order on that roadway. And it gives you that channel to come into. It does, again, the collisions we've seen in the reports are, folks had come out, they misjudged the gap, and people came in and hit them. Setting up that strong channelization should slow the traffic a bit. Having that center turn lane creates that sense of order again. Other drivers knowing where other cars are going to be, or supposed to be in that order.
Well, I would just tell you, because I frequent the Richardson up to College to try and either go east or west. And now that we put in a turning lane there, you get cars that come up there and then you can't see traffic, not to
It
mention,
creates sometimes an obstacle.
and not to mention the trees that are on the Institute property to the west creates what you can't really see coming this way. But back to that, there's, you get to where, when I pull up there and I'm wanting to turn west, I usually try to stay back so I can see, but then people will come up into the right turning lane. And and I do that out of courtesy for those people that are wanting to turn right,
Or you'll block their vision.
or I'll block their vision. So,
I experienced the same thing.
right,
Sometimes because of the queue racking up from Main Street, there's it's like a wall in the car. So yeah, it's a.
well, Mr. Burris makes another good point that when school's in session at the Institute, you have a lot of the staff that are coming across the street to go to their cars in the parking lot across. So, I mean, there's a lot of different factors in that particular intersection that somewhere, somehow,
Need to be part of the study.
if we're doing this, we should be addressing them as part of the study. I yield.
Okay, anybody else?
Obviously, this is a big project, 15 million and 8 signals, new signals this would be. It's 650 a pop, and that's minimum, and then the roundabouts, I've heard success stories on those, but they're about $500,000 a pop as well. I think tiptoeing into this and maybe a potential of a workshop where we can all, if we're gonna make an investment on something like this, and most of all, talk about utilizing NMDOT funds as far as them being involved with this. I think a workshop, would bring a lot of value. It would be nice to get some of this work done as well as get a third stakeholder in it. FHWA, the state, and I just have reservations on some of this. We know what our city streets look like. Everybody in this room does. And when we take money from our city streets to put into projects like this, of course, in the name of safety, we all want to jump toward this. And rightfully so, we should. But at the same time, we do have streets that are falling apart, and the match part of this, and I've heard you say, James, before that some of these 20% matches on the mill and fills, wow. And we could do more of those, but we just don't have the matching funds. And that's where I feel matching funds from the city should go to mill and fills. But I think if the state can be a stakeholder in this, man, it would be great. I yield.
Thank you. We got anything?
Chairman, to his point real quick, that workshop should include having players at that, including the hospitals and the county. And maybe that's a place where we can get the county to invest in this.
Actually, in my opinion, it should be a workshop that is run by the finance committee. And because we're giving some projects on page 7, and these are just suggestions, right? That we can select from. And I would tell you those roundabout.
Roundy round.
I've had problems in them in Rio Rancho,
I've seen wrecks in them.
Rio Rancho and Albuquerque, and they seem a little confusing to me. And so I'm not sure that I'm a proponent of it because of my experiences with them, but other people love them. But we're not going to get everything that's on the list. We're going to have to select, and in my opinion, McGaffey and South Main would be one of the main ones that I think would be important to look at. I understand college and so forth, but again, the priorities, where do we put our money set?
Well, Mr. Chairman, that's why I asked the one question about if we go through some of these, is that now if we get this, we have the options of a roundabout or traffic lights. or some other means other than a roundabout. So, but I get that, and I think he said it best, that, you know, if you're doing roundabouts where you have real issues, Fort Worth, big cities, is when you've got the 2 lanes and you've got people that are inside, you got people that are coming on, and someone's coming out of the inside. I mean, that's an accident waiting to happen, and that's like you, I've had that experience in Fort Worth.
4-leg versus 8-leg. 8-legs get a little crazy.
Yeah.
And I think maybe one somewhere in college, just as a experimental. And if it works, then we can start looking at additional ones. But again, I am with, I think this is something that we need to discuss as a council together to make sure that we have opinions from the rest of the council members. But more importantly, do we have the money? You know, because obviously if we don't have the money to be able to guarantee the 20% match, it doesn't matter what kind of projects we select. Do we have somebody online trying to?
Hello? This is Councilor Moore.
Oh, Councilor Moore's joining.
Councilor Moore, did you just get on?
No, I've been on since about 5 after 2. I heard that whole presentation, but I agree with the workshop. I don't think the finance needs to be run it. I think this is a streets thing, so it should be run by infrastructure. But I do think finance needs to be involved, because we could say we want to pay this $500, $5,000, $100,000 at Washington, and we don't have but $100,000. So I agree that they should be there. I don't think they should run the meeting, because they don't run the streets. They just, we just gotta, I just think a workshop would be good. But to me, I feel like the workshop should have been had before we're doing all this talking. Now we want us to vote on, do we want to do this? But my question is, if we vote on to go ahead and turn this in, and then we're found not to have any money for roads, I don't know if we do or not. We're found to have not enough money to do any of the projects. What happens? I guess that's to the guy that did the display. So what happens if we turn all this stuff in, and then the city doesn't have any money to fix any of these things? They say 20%, but 20%, when you don't have any money, 20% is like when you don't have any money, 20% is a lot, So, so that's what I'm saying. So does it just go away? If we decide we don't have any money, what if a couple of years we get the windfall? Can we go back and decide to do these things?
We're not committed to nothing.
What happens at this stage of the game is basically say, we get some.
Don't want to send nothing in.
We'll find them out.
I can't hear.
Not unless we're prepared to fund it.
At this stage of the game, you're submitting an application for their 80% match, saying that we'll come up with the 20% of non-federal funds. And then if you get awarded the funds, they're going to come to you with a contract saying, okay, we're going to give you money. And you can at that point say, well, our 20% match didn't materialize, so we're not going to sign the contract with you. And then the whole deal is dead. The next time you go for funds, though, they're gonna question, do you really have your 20%? So you kind of will get away from having to be able to apply for federal funds again because you weren't able to come up with your 20% match. So that's the risk that you run by coming in and saying, we're gonna come up with a 20% match.
But the thing is that when you make the application, you're almost guaranteeing that you're able to come up with the 20%.
Right.
So if we have any doubt that we don't have the 20%, there's no reason to put an application in. It
Yeah.
would be in my
You
opinion.
must be real about it.
And that's where finance needs to be very.
Yeah, and that's where finance comes in.
Mr. Chairman.
Which I know Councilor Corn is going to really scrutinize this thing and see if we got the money or not.
Well, rightfully so. And,
Yeah, rightfully
you know,
We don't have the money. I don't know why, if we keep saying why. But the thing is we have to look at them. I mean, 'cause I've been hearing for 2 years, we don't have any money, we're broke. So, but what we have to start actually focusing on is, are there opportunities for additional grants for federal funds? And yes, there are.
But and I agree with you.
But finance doesn't go look for those. So asking finance if they exist, or if we have money, they're going to say no. But we need someone who's actually willing to say, yes, there's
But we-
state grants.
But that's the reason we got staff.
Yes, but they're still not hitting them.
But the question is, we're on like a deadline, May the 16th, I think you said.
Yes.
And in my opinion, I don't know whether we would be able to really, by May the 16th, can we really say we do have the monies, whatever the 20% may be, for one or two projects? And allow them to go ahead and file the application for the projects. And so if we're going to go that route, I think the workshop is almost essential, that we have to have it maybe prior to, maybe a week or whatever, prior to May the 16th.
As soon as possible. And
Yeah.
once again, we have the county there and we have the hospitals there. We may be able to get them to be partners in funding this also. And that helps us have a better idea. I think I heard a figure of 500,000 from the state. Is that correct, James?
That's
So the state
up
is
to 500,000.
up to, okay, well, we'll just say 500,000 there. So if we can get the county, other players, but we have to put those people at the table to have this discussion. Do
Absolutely.
it at the workshop.
Chairman, all the stakeholders that we can get, the better outcome we'll have of this. Guaranteed.
Well, and maybe the infrastructure committee is not the right committee to have the workshop. It may be the mayor.
The mayor should call the workshop.
Yeah. The mayor should call the workshop and have all those players contacted to be at the meeting. Obviously, the workshop is open to all the public anyway, but we want those people at the table.
Absolutely.
And so I don't know what the consensus of the committee is, but my personal opinion is we put it on staff and let them arrange a workshop before we take action and move it on to whether it be legal or I mean, we can't send it to council. It's going to go to legal. And if everybody agrees or
What is the process for a city to approach the state? We know you have $37 million set aside for matching grants. We'd like to have 2.5 of that.
the process is we have Mr. McCormick to do all this.
So Mr. Chairman, committee members, that matching grant fund that was just passed, my understanding is they don't have an application process identified yet, but that's coming in June is my understanding. So, but we don't know, at least at this point, limits on what they might give us, certain programs they might favor over others. It's undefined that I'm aware of at this point.
See, and those are unknown factors that have to be taken into consideration as well before we can really make a determination. And so from the committee standpoint, if you agree, maybe we need to just table this one and have Mike and James talk to the mayor and see if he can or get a workshop going.
No, the mayor, Mr. Chairman, the mayor will be out of town. I believe he told me next week. So it would probably be the following week or the week after that.
Sometime in the week, 22nd.
Yeah, I'll just have to get with his,
Okay.
and then look at his calendar.
When is the finance meeting going to be coming up? Is that in the first week of May?
First Thursday.
Okay, well, we just need to make sure we have that workshop before the
The
finance
finance
meeting.
meeting. yeah.
And if
I'll
that,
make that motion to table and.
okay, I've got a motion to table. Is there a second?
I second that.
I got a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Mrs. Moore, can you kind of give us an idea of what time you joined the meeting, just for the record, please?
You said 2:05.
I joined it
2:05.
because I got a text from Amalia about 2:05, and so I think it took me so about 2:08, I guess, something like that by the time I got clicked in.
Okay,
and
so
all
we
that.
can record it on the minutes.
Y'all didn't
Yeah,
see
so
me
we-
waving at y'all. I even came on the camera. I was waving at y'all. Y'all didn't pay me no attention.
I didn't have my glasses on. We'll go to the next item, item number 3, recommend award of ITB 24-011, the Roswell Inclusive Park Phase 2 to Abraham Construction Incorporated, and obviously this, I believe this would have to be going to finance.
Yes.
So,
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to send this on to finance.
okay, there's a motion.
Chair, may I ask a question real quick before? This special appropriation grant, this is in phase 2, correct?
Yes, sir.
And phase 1 is completed and paid for.
Yes.
Is that phase 2 the last of this?
No.
No, Mr. Chairman, committee members, there was 3 grants awarded for Inclusive Park.
Uh-huh.
First one of 1.4 million. That one's been spent, constructed. The second one was $850,000
The
award.
one we're on now?
Yes, sir, the one we're on now. And there's a third of $200,000 that's out there.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
We have a motion to send this to legal. Do we have a second?
Legal or finance?
I made the motion. to go-
I'm sorry,
Finance.
to finance. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Counselor Moore.
Did you second that, Mrs. Moore?
No, somebody
I
over
guess
there
not.
did.
Okay. Who was the second?
I second it. Thank you.
Any discussion on it?
But
Burris, you have
isn't
any
it
discussion?
a question? Oh, I'm sorry.
Good. I'll call it on you, Mrs. Moore, as soon as Mr. Burris. Did you have something to?
No, Mr. Chair, I'm good. Let's rock and roll.
Okay.
Sucking him in.
Yeah.
Okay, Mrs. Moore, you got the floor.
So the money that we're talking about, we already have, right? It's a grant that's already rewarded. So it's not like we're trying to figure out where to come up with this money, right? So it's not that finance has to try to find where we're gonna get this money. We already have this money. So we're just spending a grant we already have, correct?
Mr. Chairman, Councilor Moore, that's correct. The grant's already been awarded, signed. It's official.
Okay. So it's
So,
not as big as deal with finance as as it would be if we were coming out of one of the funds or something like that, right? But I know they have to agree on it, and I know, but I just think because it's a grant and it's already there, I feel like it's different than if we were paying out of our one of the funds or something. So I don't know if necessarily this has to go to finance.
Well,
It hasn't been there yet?
Not this one.
No, it's
not to my knowledge, no.
This is the second one. Phase 2 hasn't been there.
Let's roll. We'll get it to finance.
but we already have the grant.
correct.
Money on that.
That's why I'm with Counselor Moore. I don't really understand what's
And Chair, there's
sitting here.
not a match, right?
No, sir.
Okay.
I feel like we can send that to consent.
Redundant. This is.
So we don't have legal here, right?
No.
'Cause- So Mike, we'll go with your,
Boy, my reading of the chapter 2 that was just passed was that all items, if it had a financial consideration, it didn't designate whether or not it was a grant or not a grant needed to go through finance committee. So that was my interpretation. I'm not saying that's correct.
No,
I'm
it's
just saying that's my interpretation.
It's absolutely correct. I'm saying that in action,
Right.
it is actually, it's not good law.
Yeah,
maybe
I don't
we
thi-
need
I
to
don't think-
revisit.
Yeah. I don't think it's good either. I feel like,
That's
It's
just my
already
legal
money.
opinion, but I'm not a lawyer.
oh, but
We'll
but
accept
in
your
your,
legal opinion.
but Mr. Mike, in the thing, does it say grant or you just threw that word in
It
there?
doesn't. It does not.
It does not
It's not clear
designate
enough.
where the money's coming from. It says if it has a financial consideration.
I mean, technically,
This is
Mr.
such a
Chair.
consideration.
Let me, Mrs. Moore, you got anything else?
No, I'm done. I just kind of really disagree with the way that's read, but maybe I need to reread it also, because I feel like this is a little different. So, whatever, like you said, whatever, if Mr. Mike says we need to go to finance, that's how it's read, then, but I feel like we should go to the consent because it's already, and if they pull it because it's a grant, because we already have the money, if they pull it because it's a grant, then that's different, but I think we should be okay to go to consent. If they decide to pull it, then that's on them.
Okay, anything else?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Arnold?
well, just having been one of those that was one of the main writers of the amendments to the admin, whatever, two, looking at it and now having sat in meetings where I'm kind of questioning what's the point of the infrastructure meeting if it's all going to go, because pretty much everything has gone. So look at the staff time. Everything that you're having here that is now being referred to finance, we could actually save time by just putting it all at finance. I don't understand what is the infrastructure point of view that is being provided here if it's all being sent to money. And I'm actually just saying that as a point of record, because it's just something that needs to be considered. If every item is to go to finance as well, you're actually, I think the motion was to just send it to finance.
Right.
You guys are on finance, aren't you?
Yeah,
You could have just handled it then, instead of now.
it'll be on the consent agenda probably like in 2 seconds.
Right.
We've already
That's what
done
I'm
it.
saying. Looking at the logic behind the making of the law,
Hmm.
is that good law? Is this good time?
You know,
Practice? I don't believe.
Question is, you wrote the law,
Yes.
so
I didn't actually write the portion of the, because the amendments to changing the committees, that was later. I actually recommended 3 committees. 3 only.
right,
And so, but now being in, I then agreed, okay, we can try with the infrastructure. I think this is what the second or third meeting that we've had. And where we as counselors don't even stop to break this down, we just immediately send it to finance. That is where my concern comes in, because you're not having an infrastructure point of view, you're having a fiscal point of view. And I get, but it's already grant, it's already a done thing. So that's why I'm just questioning the whole point of the
I'm
law.
not going to disagree with you, and I think that's something that will have to be addressed if we want to amend that law or that.
Yeah. And that's part of it, just taking note of it. And then also, if you come up with other concepts or ideas on how we can actually approach this, where it is a smoother system, then that is something that because that is the beautiful thing about law.
The other thing from the way I understood it was that at least from the legal standpoint, I think that we wanted more than one committee to look at it.
But we didn't.
I think they said the more eyes that looks at it, the better off you are, or something like that.
I agree.
But I agree with you as well, that if this one is going to go straight to legal, there's really no point in it landing in infrastructure before it goes to legal
Finance.
or finance. My mind is caught up in.
I know where.
Yes.
There you have it.
So, but this is an issue that I guess we need to talk to Hess and see if we can address it again and determine, is it really necessary that it go to 2 or 3 committees?
Well, and then then if you actually have an infrastructure item where we discuss the details of infrastructure, and you aren't covering those, then what is the point of the infrastructure? And that would be the question that I would ask him. But taking note of this, I think even having in our next kind of seeing what comes across and what we actually do with it in the point of view of, do we need to even look at it? Those are notes that we need to be taking as we're moving forward. I don't, the best way to fix it is to actually experience it and understand it.
And again, the objective, if I understood it correctly, was more of monies that we were going to approve to be spent.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of action needed to go through finance. In this case, I totally agree. There's finance, all they're going to do is say, okay, we go put in consent and here we go. Because they have no reason to deny it or.
Well, because it's gone to the infrastructure committee. We've looked at it, we've questioned it, we beat it up. We sent it to, for the most part, every item basically has a component of finance in it, and just about everything, yeah. And, is there going to be redundancy? Absolutely. It's pretty much in everything we do, but I don't know. I like having all eyes on stuff, but at the same time, sometimes, redundancy does get old, but, I don't know. It's good to actually understand, talk about these. And when they do hit the finance committee meeting, they go real quick, we throw it on the consent agenda, we move on. We probably spent a lot of time on this one already that could have put 10 of them on the consent agenda, but I do agree with you, Counselor. I do. And
but that's just the way it's written. So
yeah,
for today, we'll take the legal advice of Mr. Matthews. And let's move on.
Magic Mike.
Mr. Chair, I can tell you how we've handled a couple of these items at Public Safety. The Public Safety Committee would make a recommendation that an item be forwarded to Finance Committee with the recommendation of that item being placed on the consent agenda. There was a financial aspect to that item. However, they took care of all the questions about what this item was. And then they make a recommendation to finance to place that item on consent agenda. In theory, it gives the Finance Committee the assurance that the Public Safety Committee asks all the questions about the item.
Thank you.
And now they do the formal action of agreeing that it goes on. Just to explain idea.
So my 3 recommendations for committees was finance, legal, and public safety. Because to me, all of this is actually eaten up into finance or, legal, because you can put infrastructure on either legal or finance. Because it can go either underneath of those. To me, public safety is a whole other role of government.
Yep. Councilor Kevin, do
Motion.
you want to amend the motion to include that this committee has already looked at it and just make a recommendation to put it on consent?
Absolutely. I mean, we're sending it to them, and that's the reason. I mean, I feel like we would have put it on consent, but I'm gonna not make any suggestions for Counselor Johnson, but I'm pretty sure that was what was our intent. So if you could make the motion like of that nature and written that way, then I'm good with that.
Okay, so let's change the motion as amend the motion that we make the recommendation to finance to put it on consent. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they are willing to put it on consent if they don't want to.
Exactly.
Chairman, I make a motion to move this to the Finance Committee with recommendations of the consent agenda.
Okay. I thought Councilor Kevin made the motion to begin with.
Go ahead and give it to
So
Counselor,
you withdraw your motion.
and I'll second it. I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay.
I just go and I'll second. Counselor
All right.
Johnson.
Sorry about that.
No, let's move on.
Yeah, let's
go.
move on. Yeah.
And as far as reassessing the committees and stuff and where this stuff goes, that's a conversation for later with Hess and the mayor
Legal.
and legal to go to the three committees.
No, I don't necessarily want, it's not my role to point that, but yes, I will.
I mean,
pick it
after
up.
this conversation here, I mean, this is 2 infrastructure meetings where we've had the same type of an issue. We need to address it.
And I think it stood out to me because the last one where you put like 3 or 4 items, just immediately, we actually removed like a whole, and so that's kind of why I'm going, okay, let's, look at relevance. So,
And I don't disagree with you at all. And that's why I'm saying we need to reassess because, I mean, so the Safe Street stuff, we listened to this in our last infrastructure meeting. We listened to it at City Hall and we listened to it again today. We spent a lot of time on this and we should have probably had a workshop already planned.
yes. Yes, absolutely.
And I think that's a discussion for legal to have.
I know.
concur.
And so let's go ahead and finish the motion, or did we get it done?
Yes, sir.
We had a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 The motion passes unanimously, and that's the end of regular items. And before we go into non-action items, I have invited a couple of individuals to come and address the infrastructure committee because Sunday I passed by farmers, and of course we got the Little League
One on each second.
on each second.
Okay.
And I saw movement going on, and turns out to be that these gentlemen were having a baseball tournament. And so I stopped and kind of got some information, and it was great to see that there was a lot of movement going on and a lot of kids, and it looked good. And so I invited them to come in and kind of give us a small 5 minutes or whatever board of how they came about and what their future plans are, if any. And so it's Mr. Miguel Barrientos and Rini Otero are the ones that were responsible for the tournament.
Yes, that's correct. So my name is Miguel Barrientos. I reside at 2715 Oñate Road. This is my assistant coach, Randall Otero. We've been coaching travel ball for going more than 2 years. We started with the kids when they were very young at 7U. So we've gained a lot of experiences. We go out once or twice a month. We've already got back from Amarillo, for another baseball tournament. So being that we go out so much to these tournaments, I thought, why couldn't Roswell have something like that, right? My biggest deal is giving back to the community, giving back to the kids. But with that being said, we seen Eastside. I'm not from Roswell, so I don't know why Eastside was shut down. I don't know why Eastside is no longer functioning, right? But I can't live in the past. I'm going with the present, right? My little boy plays at Noon Optimist. He's been playing there since he was 4. So we did a travel baseball deal and going to different cities, to different tournaments, different states, getting ideas from what they all do. How can I use that to give back to Roswell, right? So Rand knew how to get in touch with Eastside, how we can get it going and stuff. So we came up with the idea, let's have a 1 division tournament. So we had a 9U division tournament. Within that 9U, we had 8 teams come in, 7 of them from which were not from Roswell. Okay. Each team had 9 kids on it, so that's a minimum of 65 families coming into town, right? The tournament that we were at last weekend, just yesterday, had 97 teams, right? So with that being said, we wanted to bring Eastside back to life. Okay, we practice out there. We're open to the community. We have kids that go out there and practice with us because we want to be positive back to that part of town. I know it is the rougher part of town, but the fields were nice. I mean, they've been abandoned for so long. And when we got there, they were in really good condition. City's taking care of them, but they're not being used, right? So we put our brains together. We came up with, having events like this throughout the year. We got our feet wet, had a 9U bracket. Everything went well. We had cars pass by. We had people from the community come by telling us, good job, great job. It was just full with life, people passing by, honking, throwing thumbs up. It's something positive. All the exhaustion that we went through, the mental exhaustion, the finance that we went through, we did it all on our own without the help of anybody, okay? We wanted to do that just to show the positive coming into it with something like that, right? Mr. Oropesa had the pleasure of going by and checking it out. He was pretty amazed by it. When we're out there practicing, we have people coming by, talking to us, hey, what are y'all planning? What are y'all doing? Are y'all bringing it back to life? We're trying to bring it back to life to break some diversity in Roswell. We've seen the crime rate in the last 2 to 3 weeks, how it's been. Those kids are all really, really young. You know what I mean? But if there was some kind of positive other than going out of town to do this stuff, a lot of families here ain't fortunate to do that. But if we could bring that, I feel like it would bring a lot of positive back into Roswell. The stuff that we do have planned is like a back to school bash, right? Tournaments, teams come in, bring school supplies. They still stay here in hotels, right? They still come downtown shopping. They hit our restaurants. They do all this stuff here in Roswell. I didn't hear not one negative part of it from teams coming from El Paso, Lubbock, Amarillo, Midland. They were all happy that Roswell finally had something. There's so many people that want to know Roswell, just don't have nothing else to come for, right? So they came. So with Back to School Day Bash, we can not only bring more people in, but we could give back to the schools, right? It might not be able to cover every student, but we could help partner with the Boys and Girls Club and say, hey, we have this school supplies, directors in the right position, let's help these guys out. Around December, we wanted to have a Toys for Tots, which we go to El Paso and Alamogordo every year for Toys for Tots, and we take a tour. Why can't we bring something like that to Roswell, right? To help the kids that are less fortunate here, that don't have that access, to give them, even if it's a toy, put a smile on somebody's face, right? So with that, Ren and I wanted to see how we could go about it, what needed to be done to do that, to bring baseball back to Roswell, hopefully with bigger and better plans. So.
Any questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
So, and I know I had a text from Ren, but I was actually up in Rio Doce, or I would have come by because my kids all play travel ball and very much involved with baseball with my crew. So have you guys, are you trying to do any coordination with Noon Op and Lions Hondo so you have more fields? Or could you use softball complex to help bring, more teams in and to do that?
So that is something that I've been actually in contact with USSSA with Victor Pallavi out of El Paso. He's the regional director. And when I got with him, he said, well, you're gonna have to get with Roswell and see what parks we can use, right? Being the dates that we have these big tournaments set up, Nuna, nor the complex, nor Lions Hondo have anything going at that time. So we haven't extended out personally to talk to Caleb Grant or Josh Torres or any of them yet, because we wanted to see what today brought, right? I am sure that with that, not only will we have those fields, but we had a food truck out there at that park, right? So that's bringing more local vendors out to get noticed. We had photographers from here from Roswell. We had the Army National Guard that sponsored and helped with a bunch of stuff. But we do want to get with the men's complex, the girls softball fields, and Nunop and Lions Hondo, but we wanted to make our center of operations out of Eastside, right? Eastside still to host, whenever we are doing the drives or whatever we're doing, partner up with the Boys and Girls Club to give Eastside some.
Well, and I know that we've done a really good job, the city has, before I came on the council, of maintaining east side with fencing and that stuff, but is Styles Field still, or is it all football?
Yeah, no, there's only one baseball field there. I think they use that for Gateway, but I don't know if Gateway's still using that or if Gateway uses Nuna now, right? So, but with that being said though, I mean, with hopefully the softball complex, it's a gated community there, right? So we've got 4 fields at the girls softball, and we've got 2 usable fields at the men's field that we can mark off and use as a 50-70 field or something like that. But also too, in our mind, every tournament, probably 80% of the tournaments that we've gone to, we're charged at the gate. So why wouldn't we be able to charge at the gate?
Yeah, so thank you guys.
Like Miguel says though, our operating where we would come from is east side. We would still use the 2 or 3 fields at east side, including the 6 fields over at the Woolbowl. And I think that would be more than enough fields that we need. Because I mean, in prior experience, we've gotten negative results from Nuna and we've gotten negative results from Lions Hondo. That's why we have chosen to go east side vacant, and that's where we're taking it.
Councilor Kevin, I'm sorry, the tournaments that they had this past weekend was a non-sanctioned tournament, so they didn't use USSSA or Little League or whatever. And when we did the girls softball, it was done with the intentions of bringing USSSA baseball as well to that field, to those fields. But they've only had, as far as I can remember, I think they only had 2 tournaments. USSSA baseball did 2 tournaments with
1 or 2, yeah, correct.
1 or 2, and then for whatever reason they just kind of faded off. But those softball fields were intent to be used by USSSA baseball as well.
Nice.
And you said that you had portable mounds already, or that the city has purchased mounds out there.
If you talk to Damien, Damien will tell you that the city, when those tournaments were being done, the city purchased 4 portable pitching mounts, 1 for each field. Where they're at now, I have no idea.
So with travel baseball, you're familiar with it, right? I don't know if anybody else is, any travel sports, right?
Yeah.
A minimum of 1 weekend out is gonna be $500, right? That includes gas, hotel, food. Like I said, we were in Amarillo. We got these pop-up stores. We had a pop-up store there, right? The pencil bats are very, very famous right now. This guy was selling them for $120, $130, right? Not only is those pop-up stores gonna come in, but they're also gonna give back. That's families that are not accountable, that are not on the teams, that are gonna have to get hotels, stuff like that.
But generally, when you look at, when I was involved, we had like 13 girls on a softball team. So you can almost say a family would be maybe mom and dad and maybe one child, two child, maybe even more. And once you start adding up those numbers, it has a big impact on the economy.
That is correct. So we had the Clarion Hotel that sold out to the entire tournament. Their code was Alien Bash, that was for the entire tournament. We had Holiday Inn and the Baymont, also 2 teams booked in hotels out. So within that weekend, those 3 hotels worked with us, and nothing in return for us, because that's not what we were looking for. We're just looking to bring back for the kids. With that being said, there was 3 kids that do not do travel baseball, but that were fortunate to have got an invite because of people that we know to go and get that experience. These kids will probably never play travel baseball in their life, right? But they got to get that experience, that competitiveness here in Roswell without having to go out of town for that. So it's not only for us, for my team, it's for all of Roswell, basically.
So if you don't mind me asking, since Eastside shut down and now it's Lions Hondo and New Knott, I taught at Nancy Lopez Elementary for 12 years. Where are those kids dispersed to play?
So
Split up.
it's split up with New Knott getting the majority of Roswell, right? The boundary starts all up north, all the way to the east from Virginia that way, right? So I do know that Little League is going to an open boundary. Maybe that'll bring some diversity here in town. Because I've gone to football games here when Goddard's playing Roswell High, where you hear Daddy's Money and all that stuff like that, right? I'm not from Roswell, like I said, but I do hear that. But the stuff that we're trying to do is make it city orientated for Roswell. As you can see, my jersey says Roswell Martians. It doesn't say north or south. Our colors are gray and green. We got that from the R that's on there. Those are our original colors, is that green and gray. Because we represent Roswell. Everywhere we go, we get people asking us to buy jerseys, asking us if we can order jerseys for them. How's Roswell? When do they have tournaments? Stuff like that. So the market is there, I feel, because nobody else is doing it around. The closest one to do it is Hobbs, directors Tommy Hawkins, and Ruidoso. They do it twice a year, right? But why can't we have something here that's we can go for Roswell?
Absolutely.
You guys are pretty successful, man. I've seen you in the newspaper before.
Yes, sir. We have been.
You guys bring back a lot of iron back to Roswell.
We try. It's
A lot of rings.
Pretty impressive. And I think the infrastructure there at Eastside is pretty solid. And I think playing there is a great thing. I love to hear that things are going on there. That's where I grew up playing. I loved it there, and it's something that we need to take care of. And you guys utilizing that facility is great. I think whatever the city can do to help further the baseball, get the kids off the streets any way we can out there playing baseball is just so important to everything. And
Well, one of my things is that the backfield at this site doesn't have lights. So I'm hoping that I can get with Jim and see if we can find some kind of money to be able to put lights on that one, because that will help a lot.
That is correct.
Especially on tournaments, when you have 2 fields that you can play on and possibly the softball fields as well. So, I appreciate you guys. And, I didn't hear nothing but good things about the tournament, and I hope you can continue to especially if you tie it in with USSSA or any other organization for that matter. But to be able to bring that area back to life, therefore for the longest time it's been dead.
And Sheriff, you guys said New Knott and Lions Hondo was not too receptive. What was just because they was already being obligated by other teams, or they just wanted to stay separate from all of that? Or
I really don't know what's the deal. I just know that one color is red and one color is blue, right? I don't know they just don't like each other, if they don't want to get along, if they don't want to merge, or if it's a power, who's going to be president, who's going to do this, who's going to do that.
Oh, Mary.
I don't know what's the deal with them. My little boy does play. We have on my travel team, we do have kids from Lions Honda. We do have kids from Nuna. We do have kids from Artesia and Carlsbad that travel over here for practice, right? So the little boy that comes from Carlsbad 2-3 times a week to practice, guess what? He still has to get food. He still has to put gas, you know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
So it's small stuff that's coming in. Whenever we made the team, we made it with one goal of it's going to be for Roswell. It's not going to be for one division, for one league, for anybody. But we are trying to create the unity here in Roswell in the baseball world.
Jim, had
Jim?
I just want to tell them thanks for taking care of the fields, but there's one thing you mentioned, we're not going to tolerate someone pushing back. We're just here for the kids and to be safe. Do appreciate what you're doing. It's the Parks Department that's helped with the fields. But we'd also talk about including the Boys and Girls Club as much as we can, because we've done a lot of work there. We want to promote Boys and Girls Club. We talk about helping the kids. There's another way, whether it's with their homework or whatever. So this is a lead into that. Appreciate that part.
That is correct. We have been in contact with Jake, so with Boys and Girls Club, for big things like this, to have his kids go by and check it out.
I know again, having problems getting coaching staff and things like that for the East Side Little League at one time. I coached there a couple of years, and you know, it's just high demand for coaches. And that was one of the biggest issues was getting volunteers for that area. But it's something that kids in that vicinity don't play ball because, you know, you get out of school, they want to be able to walk to their baseball field, and commuting all the way to Noonopt or commuting all the way to Lions Hondo is just not in their cards. And to me, I think that's a disservice the whole city does, I think.
Again, thank you guys. And I hope that you can continue doing what you're doing. And
Absolutely.
as far as the city is concerned, I'm going to say for my own self, we will try and help you guys as much as we can as far as the city is concerned. So, you know, the contact person is right there. So,
We'll get them in the headlock.
So, thank you all very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, guys.
So we get to the reports. I'm going to say it, the same thing that I've done before. I'm going to give the opportunity to the department heads to give a report if they want to give a report. And again, from my own part, I know I read the report and I'll mark things that I may have questions on. So department heads or the committee members, if you have specific questions of the department heads, that we can do that as well. So I'll go to the department heads if anybody is willing to give their report.
Mr. Chairman, if I might interject, there's 2 items that are not reports, just
Yeah,
Did I miss something?
number 4 and 5, sir.
Yep, okay.
this is your deal too, Juan. How'd you step over this? This is the one that you always want on here to talk about that land.
Actually, I did read the whole thing. The history of it.
Chair, I'd like to respond on the farmland, you know. I appreciate you having it on here. You know, that east parcel and the north parcel that we look at over there, you know, if we ever considered, what if somebody else comes along and makes a purchase of this land adjacent to this?
Well,
Number one. And number two, we have to know that our facility is going to grow. It already is. I mean, once we get over the 50,000 threshold, the facility is going to grow. And, you know, the gentleman did an assessment, I want to say 5 years ago on this land. He gave us a proposal, which was at market value, you know, and it was like $9,000 an acre. And, you know, 77 acres on the east side, 108 acres on the north side, you know, and if we wait for somebody else to purchase that between the facility and what is that, White Mountain Road right there and the river? I mean, all of that land right there, as well as the river for our, where we deposit the clean water, you know, we have a nice opportunity there. And furthermore, on this opportunity right now, is that not farmland? And is that land not being farmed, and does it not already bring revenue with the water that we supply to this? So by us owning it, by us reaping the benefits of the revenue, and I've often wondered if it's a possibility that we could recognize our revenue to make the payment for this land, you know, and if there's some kind of maybe study we could do or something to that effect to maybe kick this thing a little further down the road and bring it into the eyes of all council members, and think, you know, this could be a good opportunity for us, I think.
But, you know, and then in reality, we thought we had an agreement with the gentleman that owned it, the original one. And the agreement was that the city would purchase the land, but lease it lease it back to them
And still make the,
until such time that the city would need it.
right.
And that's the gentleman agreement that was made with the owner, but it's I understand he passed away a few years ago.
Yeah.
And so now you got I think it's the son or the son. So now it may be a different story.
My understanding was they're still interested, and this was like at the first of the year when I first caught wind of all this, that the kids were still interested, but you know, we're kind of the stalwarts on this right now. And you know,
Yes.
I just think it's worthy of a conversation more. I mean, look at the pros, the cons, the revenue source, leasing it out. Seriously, we're looking at close to 200 acres of rich farmland.
Thought we already had. That's why I'm kind of going, what are you talking about? Because why, I mean, I thought we had already agreed to,
I don't think there was nothing in writing the agreement.
Yeah, this is kind of just stuck there, Counselor.
Stuck in the mud.
And
So, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead, Counselor.
So, Mr. Chairman, we talked about all the different federal grants that are out there. And could we find a federal grant that deals with wastewater that we might be able to use to buy this land on an 80-20 deal where the federal government funds 80% of it and we pay the other 20%? And because it is an infrastructure, wastewater, something that is important, whether it's safe streets or if it's wastewater or some of these other things. So if we could find a federal grant that we could attach the wastewater to and help to make that purchase, I think that's an avenue for us.
so I'm sorry, what is the holdup? Why haven't we moved it? What, because I'm with you. What is the action? Where is the action at?
Counselor, Mr. Chair, Counselor, the last I recollect is that they were in the process of reaching an agreement with the owner, and then the owner died.
Right.
Not done any work since then. There's not been any discussion on it since.
No,
then.
I know I've seen it since then regarding the sun.
I haven't seen it.
You haven't,
Yeah.
I've seen it.
I haven't seen anything in writing.
Currently, we do sell the water to them for the farm, but I haven't seen anything else.
Okay, but my question is, why haven't we made any action or motion? Why?
Well, I can only give you my opinion is when I took over the infrastructure previously, I came hounding on this particular issue. And then I got replaced as the chair for infrastructure, and they kind of disregarded the issue, put it to the side, and never looked at it.
Who was the chair that replaced you?
Barry Foster.
Thank you.
No, I take it back. It was,
Mr. Perry.
huh?
He was chair of finance.
No, Barry Foster was the chair of General Services, the one that you replaced.
Oh, okay.
Chairman, September 19th, September 3rd, 2019 was when, you know, the appraisals went through, and that's like pushing 5 years ago. And I don't know if this 1.7 for 200 acres is still available to the city, but wow.
Good, and I think this is something that, I mean, we really need to push and at least get something in writing to the point where nobody beats us to the land.
Once they do, it's
Yeah, what
it'll be a
they
sad
do,
day for the city of Rockville.
You're looking at a new plant.
Yes. Yeah, we're looking at a whole new area, a whole new everything. And is there any way legal can look at this and see if these, I mean, I've heard talk from, God, I can't remember his name, for the wastewater treatment plant. And this, Andrew, yeah. And I've heard mention that this was still valid, but, you know, is it legally still valid? And is it something?
This was something that Jim Morris
Right.
was assigned.
Yes.
And of course, Jim Morris was replaced by Kevin Mavers. And the Kevin Mavers, as far as I saw,
You mean Bill Moore's?
Bill Morris,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
didn't really push this issue as far as I could see it. And of course, Kevin got replaced as well. So I'm not sure who is the one that is.
I can, Mr. Chairman, get with our attorneys and have them reach out and find out the offer's still good, and at least start there.
Okay.
And bring that back to you to see if that offer's still on the table.
So, and I would say, Mr. Chairman, that we need to figure that out, and we need to figure out if there's any grants that we can attach to this. And I think it's in our best interest, city of Roswell, that we get that land purchased. I mean, I don't think there's any ifs, ands, or buts about it with what.
I think it would be nice to have both parcels. But if we can't have both of them, at least one of them. And the bigger one.
Well, Chair, one says the east, one says the north, but they're really both,
Yeah, but
they're right next to each other.
yeah.
And then there's a little small parcel right before we get to the road there. But other than that, it's that whole farmland there.
Councilor Moore, are you trying to jump in here? Councilor Moore?
Can't get my mic on. I agree. Can we just make sure, how do we do we just send this to legal, ask the legal to check into it and then bring it back to us? Or how do we find out if the agreement is still binding? It would be Hess or would it be legal? Well, legal is Hess.
Mike has indicated that he will get a hold of legal and see if the information that we currently have is still valid.
And if it's not valid, what's our next step?
I would say that you would have to contact the
Owners.
the owner, which is the son or the stepson, and see if we can work out something similar to what we did with the previous owner.
And that would also be legal. That will have to work something out.
No, not at this point, no.
The water infrastructure.
Not until we get to the point where we need to sign a contract.
So can we find out right now if there is a contract? That's what Mr. Mike is going to do now, is find out if there already is a contract that maybe we hadn't signed or worked
I've not
through or
seen a
something.
contract. I have not seen a contract.
I haven't seen a contract either.
Just word of mouth.
Yeah.
Chair.
As far as I can remember, it was a gentleman's agreement.
That's what I understand. Council.
Chairman, I believe Lorenzo is in direct contact with this gentleman at all, yeah. And he's made mention that he's been in contact with him and says his offer still stands. And that was like the first meeting I was at. And I've been looking at this and studying it more and more. And I mean, I think Lorenzo would be a good contact.
Yeah.
If you would.
Lorenzo was the one that presented us to us like just a couple.
Exactly, yeah.
I thought we already have been talking about this and movement was going.
But it was
Tying on the vine and we
it
watch.
wasn't something that,
There's no action taken.
no action as far as contract is concerned. Yeah, I remember Lorenzo saying that he had talked, I think he said the stepson.
Yes.
Something, yeah. It's a little fuzzy, but
Probably actually has motion knowing Lorenzo. We probably just need to ask Lorenzo, where is this right now? And what is and what is the next step? Because,
so I believe you're correct.
yeah,
Serious. So Lorenzo's got a
It's not-
mouthful on this. If we
he's
just,
not the type to drop this.
he was just here. So
Well, we'll leave it up to Mike
I can,
James, to, get some clarification as to where we're at. And then we'll see what kind of action we need to take after that.
Yes, sir.
And if it means putting it on legal, because legal is at the end of the month, don't bring it back here, take it to legal.
If we can get some kind of agreement.
If there's an agreement.
Yep. Anything else on this item? If not, we'll go on to the next one, discussion of existing state park concrete repairs. Councilor?
we do have complaints from the skaters that there's something, it's messed up, right?
Really bad, yeah.
So is that not a point where we're put on notice that if we don't fix it and there's an accident there that we're liable?
Yes.
Once again, legal's not here, but I would think we would be. And I don't know, I just feel it puts the whole skating thing to me feels like a liability. But needless to say, I don't even want to go there, but because the kids need to have their skate park. But at the same time, when there's a known hazard and we just turn a blind eye to it, is there not a liability to us in some form or fashion? And maybe even if it means we close it till we fix it or something, or I don't know to what degree is this liability. So
well, let's get
look at the pictures and
let's get the expert to kind of give us where we're at, because when you look at the report, it gives kudos to the city for trying to fix it, but in essence, they're saying they didn't fix it correct.
I know, but here's the issues. First of all, you're correct that the concrete is different levels. Since it's in a bowl and it's going uphill, you can't get a grinder in there to make it smooth. Okay? Same thing when you try to put materials in it to offset that, like normal, something that's flat, gravity flat. So you put it in down to the bottom. Okay? All right, so it's trying to build it up. And so what do you use? Tar or a flexible floor leveling compound? So we're trying different stuff around the edges of this thing and in it to try to make it better. But, there again, I put tar in it, it's 100 degrees out in the desert. That's what you stay. It's just a moving target. It's not that we're ignoring it.
Yeah.
We're not trying to fix it. It's just, I think at this point, doing the right thing is move forward with what you're doing, or we go in there and tear some stuff up and fix it. Can we cap it with something? That's a conversation with myself and James, but there are other things been tried between the Parks Department, Streets Department, engineering. And so it's a big bowl, or it's curved. There's nothing we can really work with. It runs down. So.
But I think the concern that Councilor Johnson has is the liability. Is it worth keeping it open when there's a liability that the city may be sued, or if somebody gets hurt.
Put a sign up there that says, "Skid your," so when you see these streets.
We got legal here now.
Oh, there he is.
So, Chairman, if we got a lip on the concrete and it's on like almost a 45 or vertical slope,
Some of that stuff they want.
okay.
I would grind off. I mean, it's,
So is it grindable with a concrete grinder? And
no, not we use streets.
No.
Some of the stuff that we would take off, they would actually want.
Okay.
Okay, so it's, no, seriously, I mean, with the sharp.
They want the risk, so I don't know. I just posed the question, but thank you, Chair.
I would actually like to mention or talk about this. So I think what is being asked here is, we've already reached out to a professional because of just exactly what Jim said. The Parks Department went out, took a look, tried to do what they could, but when it comes down to it, those concrete joints, they need to be done professionally. So we reached out because of the state community to a professional who actually does this kind of repair. And that's what this packet is right here. There was an estimate that was given to us based on what's actually out there. And
Is this the warranty part?
no, this is the, so engineering has taken it upon themselves to actually try to pay for this out of funding that is already in our budget. And that's what this discussion is about.
Okay,
Because we
yeah, now I remember the
have
estimate.
an estimate for a professional to come out and do this work so that we can actually have an idea along with parks folks to come and see, oh, this is how they do it. Maybe we can keep it up. But right now, I think the discussion item is that we've requested to have this paid for out of our engineering maintenance or repair budget. And it's just kind of sat there. We haven't really had a response.
Is this the estimate that we're referencing? 24.9?
24,000.
Just
That is in our budget.
in engineering maintenance room repair.
That's good. Will that answer your question?
Well, I mean, this is done professionally. It eliminates a liability. They have it in their budget. Will, what is your comments on that? So,
Let's get it done, but I mean, it's up to Jim on helping us facilitate that. I mean, who might?
Mr. Chair, Counselor, if anything going forward from this point, I would have to be approved by the city manager because the purchase orders were shut off on the 31st of the last month. So he's approving emergency
We got a
purchases
lot of them
only.
out there, right?
Pardon me?
So we got a lot of them out
Yes,
there.
sir.
that's till July 1st then?
Till June the 30th, yes, sir.
No, June 30th, yeah, July 1st.
And
Mr. Moore,
this, we can't do anything. You can't say anything. It's not an action item at this point. It's, if they already had the money and the person to do it already, why come it didn't come as an action item and instead of just some information? It should have been on the action items where we could have voted on it and talked that at this point. Now we can't
right,
do any voting on it. Now we to the next meeting before we could even say anything about it. And then that's even further away. Is there any signs out there that say skate at your own risk? I think they need to be out there anyway. I think there should be some of those signs out there anyway, skate at your own risk, because we don't have nobody out there monitoring. So I think there should be some of those signs out there anyway. I know it may mean, probably don't mean a thing, but I think at least if they're out there, to get some kind of, they know that, they may not consider, I'm sure they could come back and sue the city or whatever, but at least if the signs are out there, they kind of know you have to be a little more careful and you're on your own. So I think we should check into getting some signs out there for sure.
well, actually, this one can go to the city council by the mayor. The mayor can put it on the city council and have it approved. So we don't have to wait another another month to go through the process.
Can it go to financing?
Well, it could go to finance and, you know, but not through the recommendation of this committee. But it can go to full council with the mayor requesting it to go to full council. And then you can address it at full council. And so we don't have to wait a full 30 days or whatever.
It's another
But-
30 days.
Huh?
It's another 30 days to council. The next thing is finance, correct?
Well, yeah, but it's still, I mean, the finance is still going to send it to,
And we're on a PO freeze right now, so I wonder,
Council or could approve, or finance or council could approve the expenditure of this money.
Sounds like it's another thing that you need to put on the mayor's plate.
wasn't there something that says that if it's under a certain amount of money, the city manager was able to make that decision?
Yeah, but the city manager's closed off all POs at this point. All POs are closed off except for emergency POs that he has to approve, him and the finance director, in order for them to go forward. If one of them was over the 20,000, that would still have to come to council for approval. Anything under that 20, he could approve.
Okay.
Chair, when is the legal committee? I mean,
The legal committee is the fourth,
I mean, I just wonder if this is a liability for the city in the event we keep putting it off. And I don't even know the extent of how bad it is.
Different spots. It was some really bad spots.
And if this is going to break a leg or something, or,
The skaters have actually been at fixing it too.
I know,
But so they're assessing it. I mean, if it was actually, Tori would be all over us like white on rice.
Like a fire.
like skunk on,
I mean, I
no, no.
literally hear from her daily, and
Okay.
she's already brought this up and went over it with me. So, but, you know, it still is a liability, no matter what. We still need to consider it a liability. They should not be skating on that. As far as we should be on top of this.
The
So if
unfortunate
it's
thing
a
about that.
Councilor Moore.
So if it's a liability, we couldn't do it as an emergency if we consider it a liability. Can't we try to push it through like it's an emergency? If they already got the money, they already got the person ready to do it. Could we like say it's an emergency, it's a liability for the city? So why we couldn't say, you know, it's a liability and we don't want to get sued, and, you know, couldn't we knock this out real quick?
I'm sure the city manager would go look at it himself and he would make that determination whether or not he considered it an emergency or not.
Perfect.
There you go.
There we go.
Problem solved.
Thank you. We'll go forward.
And Mr. Chairman, I would tell you that with these skaters, you could put an 8-foot fence up around that deal, keep them from skating.
They're going over.
They're gonna go over.
You'll get over it.
Yeah, they'll be there.
That's why we got to take care of the liability.
All right, anything else on this issue? So we can go on to the rest of them, our reports.
Yes, sir.
So again, I'll give the opportunity to department heads. If they wish to give a report, you're welcome to give a report. And committee members, if you have any specific questions that you want to ask concerning reports, we can do that as well.
Chair, so we're just going to let them, are we going to still go through one by one, or are we just going to say if somebody wants to talk?
My thing is that if, you know, it takes a lot of time to do reports.
Sure.
But sometimes department heads feel like they want to get out of here early.
Sure.
And they don't want to give the reports. And so that leaves it upon us as committee members to make sure that you read the reports, and if you have any questions, that you can ask specific questions.
I would like to mention something. Transit is launching software that Roswell has never had before for our buses. And after COVID, we went to a model that was fixed route on Main Street, but everything off of Main Street is trial ride. You call us and we go pick you up, and then we either bring you back to the station or we take you to another bus stop that's on the side route. Now that will be booked online. There's a driver's app. You can see in real time where your bus is. There will be tablets in the bus, so the bus drivers will be just told what to do. Go pick up this person, take them here, go pick up this person, take them there, sort of like a cab service. If that goes well, you may consider curb to curb service for anything off of a fixed route, Main Street in the future, just to save people time and also to get rid of 120 bus stops that have no benches, no shade, no wind protection, all of those things that we're trying to find where we could possibly come up with money for. We wouldn't need that money. So that's what's happening. So if your constituents call you and they may get confused, I've already had people telling me that they're confused. I can't ride the bus anymore unless I have a smartphone. That's simply not true. You just call in and we book it for you. So it's still either call us or you can do it yourself.
Counselor, I would like to commend you. You've done an amazing job with the transit. I mean, it's gone from little over 4,000 ridership to close to 11,000 in 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that is amazing. Keep up the good work. And it's like you're constantly looking for improvements, and that's amazing. So good job.
I
Can you tell
concur.
me what you said the name of the app was? Did you say the name? What did you say the name of the app was?
I didn't, it's Blaze, BLAISE.
And it's not up and running just yet.
No, May 6th.
Okay.
But you're having meetings
And right
already.
now they can just go to right now they just go for the side trail buses. They just go to, they can call you on the phone or go to what the railroad, the Pecos Valley, whatever.
Just call it Roswell Transit. Yes.
Okay. But you don't do door to door right now. You just do spot to spot, bus stop to bus stop.
Right. So we have paratransit service for people who are disabled or visually, physically disabled, hearing impaired. We come and get you at your house and take you wherever you're going. That's a different service. You have to apply for that service. But if you're just riding the bus, the normal bus, if you're at a stop anywhere off of Main Street, you call us. And our phone number is right there. There's a sign. And you call us and we'll come get you.
All right. Thank you.
Councilor, you had something?
No, I was sending someone down the hall. Not
Oh.
You'd be here for another hour if he came in.
The mayor.
Any other department heads want to give a report?
I would be happy to. Just have 3 pages. Mine's on page 74, the last line item on the list.
Save the best for last.
There it is. So we just have a few changes, updates from previous times. The southeast water line, we did get the CSPP, the construction safety plan completed. And we have uploaded that into the FAA's website. So that is moving along. We will make James ready to go out to ITB soon on that project as well. I'm looking at doing an ITB on the apron, the first item, the rehabilitate apron phase 1. And also on the BLM taxiway and the slurry pads. Those should be ready probably the design should be done by the end of this month. We should be ready to go out and see what kind of bids we receive.
Terminal expansion?
No, the.
I mean, where are we on the terminal expansion?
We are still nowhere closer. Some of those funds would be used if we are awarded RARA.
Okay,
Otherwise.
Still undetermined.
Yes.
Okay.
We're looking at a generator, that's how the.
absolutely. Yeah, gotcha.
Either way, the generator's needed, but,
Right.
throw that one in there too. But that's really the only updates on our master plan. We will be meeting strategic plan with the engineers this week to do a mission and vision virtual meeting online. I believe that's the 17th. We'll be meeting with them. And there's really no other updates on our projects.
The generator, is it gonna be propane or diesel?
It will probably be gas.
Gas.
Solar powered.
Any questions, comments from committee members? Ms. Moore, you got anything? Maybe she just got off.
No, I'm still here. I don't have any, it just takes me a minute to click. It takes me a minute to click on the mic for the mic to click back on. So once I click it, there's a delay. So I don't have any more questions.
James, you want to give a report?
Unless there's questions.
Yours has a lot.
You know, I do have one question, Chair.
Okay.
On page 71, Safe Streets for All, it says a city match of 13,000. I believe that should probably have another digit in it. Should be 130,000.
Yes, 130,000 is.
Yeah. That's about the only, after reading all that,
Yep.
Good.
I will correct that.
Can I have
That's
one more
being-
comment?
That's okay.
I want to
Yes,
thank
ma'am.
Mr. Mike. I want to thank Mr. Mike on last week. There were some loose dogs at my house and I couldn't get out of my house. There was 2 pit bulls at the door and they would not let me out my house for like 15 minutes. I could not get out of my house and they were trying to get my little puppy on the porch. And I called Mr. Mike and within a few minutes, somebody from animal control had came out, but the dogs were gone by the time they got out here. But I could not open my front door. They were on my porch. And they weren't no little puppies either. They were some big old, every time I opened the screen door, he'd charge me. And so I couldn't get outside. And so I called Mr. Mike. I didn't have the other guy's number. So I called Mr. Mike and he sent animal control out and they came out pretty quick. And so I just wanted to say thank you to Mr. Matthews for that. I sent the animal control the video that I had that I took of the dog charging me. And I know where the dogs are. They're next door. I found them. But I haven't seen them out anymore because they heard me saying I was calling the dog pound, so they saw the trucks outside with the lights on. They came with their lights on. So everybody was hiding right in. So I just want to say thank you to Mr. Mike. That's all.
You're welcome. Anybody else, department heads? And we'll go to public comments. Ms. Rita?
Mr. Chairman, I did have a couple of comments, but I talked to the people who could get it done for me.
Good, thank you.
That must have been Mike.
That must have been the baseball players.
Okay.
Anything else?
Mike knows him very well.
Is there anything from anybody online that wants to make any public comments?
Magic moment.
And if not, and if there's no objection, this meeting is adjourned at 4:14.